Okay. Yes, we're here today to talk about Bel Air. We're going to cover season 2, episode 2 and 3. All right. So, in that first episode, Will had just moved back in and we met Doc. So, Doc is up to something. We don't really know what his plans are. He found out that Will was connected to the Banks family and we don't know what that means yet. So, some of the things that I was looking for in this episode, and some of the underlying plot things that could probably come up, I was thinking is that Carlton's anxiety issues, what's going to happen after he lowers his meds, because he was off the chain before he got on those meds. So, I'm liking the Carlton right now. So we'll see. We'll see how it goes. Um, I'm loving how well Jabari is playing Will's character. Like you could tell that he really studied and learned some nuances in order to be able to pull this character off. Because not that I forget that it's not Will Smith, but I can tell, that he's really, really worked on that character. So shout out to him. We need a Jeffrey backstory, like how they do like those Power and Ghost book 1 and whatever they're doing, like extra stories to go along with the main storyline. Like we need Jeffrey's backstory, because Jeffrey, what is he doing? We need to know, because Jeffrey's interesting. He's mysterious, and I guess that's what got everybody wondering more about his backstory. So the other thing I wanted to talk about was the Jackie character. Now, I don't have a problem with them changing stuff in the original storyline, but if y'all knew that Jackie was already a character, like that was his homegirl, or no, well, that was his old girlfriend from back home that came to LA on a basketball scholarship. Like that was a character. So if y'all gonna name another character, a character's name that's already taken, why didn't they just pick another name? Because now we know Jackie is Doc's niece. So, now you're going to have, this is about to get in the way of him and Lisa too. So that's something else that could come up. But yeah, Jackie was played by Tyra Banks. Anyway, that's just my 2 cents about that. I guess that also solidifies the Doc character, because now, his niece is also involved with somebody that's trying to get, his help to get, further along in basketball. So, but we'll see how that goes. So the episode opens up and they're at the game. Doc is there, so is Jeffrey. So Will's team ended up losing that jump by 1 point. And so he tried to talk to Doc afterwards, but Doc wasn't really receptive, because they lost by 1 point because Will kind of toned himself down pretty much. And then you see Aunt Viv try to get Uncle Phil to talk to Jeffrey, and he refuses. But then you see a scene where Carlton asks Uncle Phil about lowering his meds. So this is the part where they're thinking about that. But Uncle Phil and Will had a talk after his game, and Will is upset. He's in there going off. He said, whenever I do me, we win every time. The coach don't know what he's talking about. Uncle Phil told him he was being a little bit arrogant, and that's classic Will. So they talk about Doc. Uncle Phil asks about that, and Will lets him know, he wants a D1 scholarship, and Doc can help with that. Uncle Phil just tells him to be careful who he tells his business to, and wonder why they are in his business to begin with. So that's the start of that conversation. Okay, so Ashley is challenged to write a short story that's better than the book that they're already reading in class. And Miss Hughes, the original Ashley, Tatiana Ali, is playing Miss Hughes. So Ashley gets another book from Miss Hughes. It's separate from what they're reading in class. The first one was a book by Robin Spencer. And this one was I'm Still Here, Black Dignity in a World Full of Whiteness. Now, one of the little girls in the class that was not a person of color saw the exchange, right? And so eventually Miss Hughes gets fired. Ashley has told her parents, Viv was going to go to the board. And so it's it's about to be a big fight on their hands for that. But I was thinking about that because, yeah, I get it, right? She wasn't doing anything wrong in the sense of just giving her the book. However, if the situation was turned around, because whenever you make an allowance for this like one good thing, you gotta think about all the things that people could do that's bad. And those have to be allowed too. So if it was flipped around and there was a white teacher giving one of their students a book about white supremacy or anything for that matter, right? Like they could choose to give a book about something more sinister, but the whole rule is giving books outside of the curriculum, right? And so I don't know. I know we would have an uproar about that. I never had to fight anything like that as a parent. But just thinking about, just thinking about it, I don't know. But Aunt Viv is not letting it slide. So then Uncle Phil and Jeffrey met up. They talked about how Jeffrey gave Will the paperwork. Uncle Phil was trying to see how he was doing. He asked Jeffrey to come home and tells Jeffrey they all love him. But Jeffrey is conflicted about somebody named Frederick. Now, if y'all remember who Frederick is, let me know. I don't know who Frederick is. So maybe this is a character that we haven't met yet. But Jeffrey said he's feeling some type of way about his decisions, about why he can't see his son. His head understands, but his heart doesn't. So he never really answered Uncle Phil when he said come home. They just smoke a cigar. So then Will's trying to sneak out to go see Jackie because remember he met Jackie at the basketball game. So he's trying to sneak out to go see Jackie because Will's trying to get closer to Doc. And so Carlton catches Will sneaking out because he's, low. His meds are being lowered, so now he can't sleep. So he tells Will that he can show him the one way that he can sneak out without getting on any of the cameras. So in order for him to do that, he had to be allowed to go with Will where he was going. So him, Carlton, and Will jump over the wall and they get into Jazz's car. And and so Carlton about to go to the club with Will. They get there. Will eggs Carlton on to go talk to this girl at the club. And Will meets up with Jackie. And he's still asking about Doc. Anyway, meanwhile, Carlton is like pulling ladies and dancing with two girls at one time. So Will's over there dancing with Jackie and Doc ends up walking up behind them and he finds out that Jackie is Doc's niece. Doc pulls him away though. So he turns around like, you didn't tell me you was his niece. But like I said, Doc comes to get Will, interrupts their dancing. So Will talks to Doc about why he popped up in the middle of the school year. So now this story about him leaving Philly is coming back up. So they continue to talk, and then Doc tells him that coming to BEL AIR has made his game soft and that he needs to showcase his talent and play for his school and Doc's team at the same time, and tells him his ways to work around it. So right here, I already know it's going to be a problem because he's, Will's old enough to make his own decisions, but Uncle Phil and Aunt Viv is not going for that. Doc tells him that he's going to be in touch, and before he left, he said, nobody argues with a winner. We're going to get that put on some t-shirts. Okay. We see Jeffrey comes back. All of the family welcomes him back, and he kind of falls right back in line, getting him out the door. So Hilary invited Jazz to lunch because she needed to apologize to him and told him that he was right about some of the things that he said in their last conversation. She also told him that she thinks they should take their relationship up a notch and tell her parents. And then her parents pop right up, no warning for Jazz or nothing, just out the blue. And Uncle Phil and Viv was shocked too, but it's still not public. Like, Jazz got a problem with the relationship not being public, so that's gonna come back up. So then there's another BSU meeting, and Carlton tells them about the Miss Hughes situation, about her being let go. They all agree to do a rally to save Miss Hughes' job. So they decided to do a protest, and they're going to call it the blackout. But then one of the administrators pulls Carlton aside and is like, You need to be careful. There's a right and a wrong way to handle things. She's basically trying to let Carlton know that you don't need to be doing this protest. She's trying to sway him away from doing the protest. Mind you, Carlton's still in the back of his mind thinking about the award, right? And this lady is also a part of that board as well. So Carlton gets a little bit spooked. Then he goes right to Will and it's like, it's not a good idea to do that, because the lady also told him that his reputation was on the line. And so, he's definitely not feeling that. So anyway, they're getting ready for Will's game. Will tells Carlton that West Philly Will is back and just come to the game. And we don't know what the hell Will is up to. I mean, even his teammates was checking with him before the game, trying to make sure he's not going to do nothing crazy. So Will was on fire for the game. But it was at this game that Uncle Phil noticed Doc in the crowd. So I was thinking that they probably knew each other, but we'll get to that. They won. So the team is winning like 70-something to 50-something, and the coach tells them to work on their perimeter game and swing the ball to good old Kirk for the next play. Now, obviously, Will's not feeling this, and he already said West Philly Will is back, and I know he's not going to do it. And he didn't. And when he talked to Doc, Doc was like, the coach didn't have the balls to bench you. Will did his thing. So Uncle Phil walks up on Doc and Will. Uncle Phil tells Doc, him and Viv need to be involved, and he gives his card to Uncle Phil. Now, I thought they were going to know each other, but apparently they don't know each other. So I don't know what's brewing with this. But for a minute, I thought they knew each other because it was pretty tense. But okay, so now we into episode 3. Okay, episode 3's title is Compromise. Okay, let's start right here. Okay, so now we about to get into episode 3 because this is where everything starts to like bubble up and happen. All right, so Will's coach tells the team they need to stay focused. They are 1 game away from playoffs. So they still planning this walkout, the blackout, and Carlton's being pressured to shut down the protest. And so Will and Carlton talk about it, and they decide, they're going through with it. So they're all gathering at the bank's residence to do like signs and things like that. So the BSU is going to come over. Ashley kind of thought that Miss Hughes got fired because of her. But they're all there prepping for the protest. Even Will's teammate Todd shows up to help. So that was kind of cool. So all of a sudden, Uncle Phil comes up to talk to Will about help with Carlton because, Carlton's meds are being lowered. And so he asked Will to keep him, abreast of anything that's out of the ordinary. But then Will's like, yeah, all right. But have you had a chance to check in the doc yet? And so Uncle Phil says that him and Aunt Viv feel open to it, but they aren't sure if Will should get mixed up with Doc. So I want to know what they found. Because Jeffrey's doing all the work. We need that Jeffrey backstory, y'all. Like, even if it was a show to show us outside of the house, what is he doing when they're not involved? Because a lot of the things that he's doing is connecting all the characters. So, I don't know. I don't know. Maybe that's overkill, but... Anyway, so Hilary asked Aunt Viv about meeting Jazz, and Aunt Viv was like, it was cool, She was probably still in shock. And so then she tries to get Hilary to be her assistant, but coincidentally, Lisa was right there, and so Lisa, she got Lisa the job. So now Lisa is Aunt Viv's assistant, and then when Will start messing with Jackie, this is going to be, it's going to make sure that they're going to run into each other's paths because she's going to be over at the bank's residence. So that's one thing that I already see happening. We'll see how long it takes for that to come out. So then they still have all these signs to get together, and the president of the BSU asked Carlton to do a speech, and he likes the president, Yasmin. He likes her, and so he agreed to do a speech for the protest. So now he got to go through the protest because he's supposed to be doing a speech. So all of a sudden, Miss Hughes is there because Ashley invited her and didn't tell anybody. So she gives the kids their props. She gives them a pep talk. So Aunt Viv and Uncle Phil discussed the situation. Some of the parents thought the books that Miss Hughes was giving Ashley was inappropriate. So they make all the signs and they discuss the protest, and all of them are like really passionate about the protest. Carlton got googly eyes over Yasmin, but then they were getting the signs and stuff ready to go back to the school, and Ashley got a text saying that for her middle school, saying that they would be suspended if they attended it. So Ashley cannot go. Okay. Meanwhile, Hilary is working on a deal for the house with Simply Spike, and she almost got it sewn up, but the key thing that she needs is Ivy needs to be on board. Now Ivy ain't even there. Hilary is like doing this deal on her own, so now she got to go find Ivy, who is at work, some photo shoot or whatever, and she got to convince Ivy to do this contract. Well, Ivy has her own drink, right? That apple martini looking stuff. And so Ivy decides that she's not going to do it because her PR or whoever, manager or whatever, told her it's not a good look, or she doesn't need to do it because they're competition. And so Hilary almost laughed her out at that point. But the crazy thing was, after Ivy walked away and said no, Hilary fucking sent the message to the lady at Simply Spiked and was like, it's a go. So that's gonna be something that's gonna probably gonna do one or two things: come back and blow up in her face, or it's gonna be really good. But who knows? So all of the kids are getting the messages around in their phones about they're gonna be suspended if they do this protest. But then Carlton, Lisa, and Will is talking about it, and they decide to still protest, and all of the teams are still with them. So it's still going to be a lot of people involved. So they call like an impromptu BSU meeting, and Carlton is still struggling with his decision because he likes this girl. He's agreed to do the speech. The lady administrator is in his head about this is not going to look good for your reputation. You need to call them off. Like, Carlton is supposed to be able to influence all these kids to think what he thinks. So it ends up that Carlton and Yasmin ask for a meeting with the head of school, and so Miss Bassett helps them to get a meeting with the head of school. Then they flip to Jeffrey trying to get into Uncle Phil's computer, and he almost got caught. Uncle Phil came in there, and Jeffrey had moved in the nick of time. Just looked like he was sitting there chilling, drinking some tea, looking at some files or whatever. But Uncle Phil also is side-eyeing the dude, James Lewis, at his job. Now, I already knew that was something because dude didn't seem excited to have Uncle Phil come back to the office. So Jeffrey about to look into him. But then, Uncle Phil gave Jeffrey some cigars, welcoming him back home. And then when Jeffrey left, Uncle Phil looked at his computer, looked around his desk and stuff, like he didn't trust Jeffrey. So it's so much going on. Uncle Phil don't trust Jeffrey. Jeffrey don't trust Uncle Phil. Doc, we don't know what he up to. Ivy and Hilary, they don't trust each other. We don't know what's going to happen with that situation. There's so many little stories woven into this. This series is crazy. So then Carlton and Yasmin, they do get to go talk to the head of the school, and they go, and Miss Barrett goes with them. But they didn't show us all of the conversation. They just showed us when Carlton and Yasmin got back down there after they finished negotiating with the head of the school. And this is what they said. They went back to the students to tell them that they can still do the walkout and no one gets suspended. But it's a big but. They can't make any signs. They can't have any signs, and they can't do any chants or speeches. And school said that they was going to review the policy that got Miss Hughes fired as well. But basically, they told them they could do a silent protest or nothing. And so, otherwise, they'll be suspended. So they start talking about this, and Will's like, they can't suspend all of us, you know what I'm saying? So they vote, and Will was the only one who opposed to the silent protest. So that was a blower. So then, a few minutes later, Yasmin, the president of the BSU, came up to Will and Carlton, and she was basically telling him, "Look, I was just saying, yeah, and then we're gonna really go out there and do what we plan to do." So Carlton is like, "Yeah, I agree." But meanwhile, he is still internally struggling with, "Oh my God, I'm about to have to do this." Right? The walkout begins, and Carlton is the first one to go out. He's leading the walkout. Once they get outside, Carlton went live to announce that they had just walked out. And then, everybody starts taking pictures. Will had put something on his hands, and somebody was like, "No, don't do that. They said no signs." So it's some of the other people coming out of the building with some of the signs, and the administration is taking the signs from them. They start like snatching the banners, and Yasmin comes up to Carlton and is like, "Just go do your speech. Go do your speech." So Carlton has an anxiety attack and doesn't do the speech. Will steals the signs as they are like sending the kids back to class. He like snatches the signs, runs through the building all the way up the steps or whatever. He ends up on the top of the building. He rolls this big Black Teachers Matter sign down. And he's standing at the top of the building with his fist up. And then they started chanting, "Black Teachers Matter." And it was live streamed. So see, that's like I said, I like the present day element of what's going on. So will they suspend everybody? What's going to happen with Hilary agreeing to that contract when Abby already told her no? Why Uncle Phil and Jeffrey don't trust each other like this? What is the reason why Uncle Phil don't trust the dude James Lewis at work? I got so many questions. Anyway, so I'll meet y'all back here next week so we can talk about what happened. But this is what's happening in the second and third episode. I'll see y'all in the next video. Peace.